very warm welcome to all our viewers of Globespan 24x7, all of you in Guyana and around the globe, as Globespan present their Monday night program live to you. Thanks to Nohar Singh from Globespan 24x7, and of course, our technical specialist, Devin Bisu. This evening, I'm sure it's anticipated. There's a lot of excitement out there as we have with us for the second time the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Anil Nandlall. Minister, welcome to the program tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Surgrim and Dr. Rose. It is a pleasure always to be on your platform, on your program to discuss the important issues that you wish to discuss with me. And of course, I want to take this opportunity to say good evening to all your viewers right across Guyana, the Caribbean, North America, and further afield.
Thank you. And of course, with me is my co-host, Dr. Rose. Dr. Rose, welcome.
Thank you, Charles. And again, welcome to you, Mr. Attorney General.
Minister, since the last time we met on our program, there has been a lot more development in many fronts in Guyana. Your ministry has been integrally involved in many of these issues. Can you give our viewers a synopsis of what your ministry has done and is doing for our country as we speak?
Well, as I indicated earlier, and I have been updating the population as time unfolds, the agenda of the Ministry of Legal Affairs is a very active one, and it's one that is fundamental to the developmental trajectory of our country. You know that you cannot develop an economy without the necessary legal framework established as a foundation upon which that economic structure can be created. So one of our fundamental tasks is to create that legal infrastructure upon which a new economy can be built, a modern economy can be built, and an oil and gas economy can be built with all its various linkages that come with such an economy. So, so we have to build a financial infrastructure, for example. And only the other day, I had to give the president an update on where we are with e-transaction legislation. And these are legislation that will allow transactions to be done in the public sector through government and state agency by computer interactions only. So no paperwork, and it's going to be done in this systematic way with infrastructural platform being built upon different computer architecture, completely driven by the internet, etc. And that will include e-payments, e-processing of documents, e-filing of documents, and the use of non-cash ways of payment right across the public sector. Now that singular initiative is a transformative one, and it's all embracing. And that's just one. Take, for example, the creation of the requisite environment to regulate the oil and gas sector. Now, this is a brand new endeavor. We have never had oil and gas in Guyana. Certainly, we never contemplated having in this quantity, except in recent times. We know in Guyana that requires a special assortment of skill, expertise, and specialty training. Therefore, we have gone out internationally for the services of that type of law firm or conglomerate company that offers that kind of service in a highly specialized way. And that is the subject of a public tender. And once that company is retained, whichever company it is, and we have had very good responses right across the globe from huge companies who have had experience in this endeavor before. And they will be working with critical sectors in the country, including the Ministry of Legal Affairs and Natural Resources, and all the state agencies, to craft that kind of environment. So you have environmental laws we have to pass laws for refinery, we have to pass smelting laws, we have to pass all the, I don't even know the gamut of laws that are required. So that again is a massive undertaking. Then you would have seen in the newspapers and heard on the news the rate at which the hospitality and accommodation industry is picking up. You would have heard about the number of branded hotels that are seeking to have their brand established here and hotels constructed. That forces us into the arena of zoning and urban planning, where we have to get laws to regulate where these kinds of establishments are going to be located. That will come naturally with healthcare facilities of a modern type in the private sector. Investors are not going to come here and invest and not invest in healthcare, because every human being wants to live. So we have had expressions from the private sector of modern healthcare facilities. We have to have the requisite legislation to establish that foundationally in the country. So, and I can go sector by sector to show you how vast and varied our responsibilities are, and my agenda is. And I have not even touched on the basic legislation yet. For example, we have 20 legislation for the public health sector alone. That includes, well, COVID has shown the world how inadequate we are as a world, and certainly as a country in Guyana, to handle a pandemic of any type, more so one of the global nature of COVID. And it has shaken the foundation of the entire world. No country can feel satisfied with the state of the public health legislation and architecture. No country, no part of planet Earth. Guyana, like every other country, must go now to the drawing board and update its public health infrastructure and legislation. Our public health legislation, like the rest of the Caribbean, dates back to 1934. And that's the whatever 1934 legislation in England was, that is what governs the Caribbean largely. So by sheer passage of time, you can see how inadequate that legislation would have become. More so with all the medical advances or all the advances that have been made in the medical and technological arena, how obsolete that piece of legislation is. And then you have, with the development of medicine and so many other areas of public health, the types of legislation that are required, reproductive type of legislation. We are dealing with tissues, transplants, and bodily parts. All these, we lack these things in Guyana and many of the Caribbean territories. And that's why I've been advocating at the level of CARICOM that we really have to begin this huge legislative revolution, if you want, in the Caribbean to update all the laws in a wholesale manner, because we can't do it in this piecemeal way. What we have had in the Caribbean in particular is law reform that has been basically reactive or connected to some financial package. So you are on an IMF program, so you have to pass a series of legislation. Or you're on a World Bank financing program, you have to pass this piece of legislation to modify your public sector, etc. So that's the type of legislation we have had by and large in the Caribbean. And that's why we must welcome, for example, the establishment of our Law Reform Commission, an institution of its type for the first time established in Guyana. That, we hope, will be that impetus that will drive a proactive legislative agenda that will deal with current issues like alcoholism, like suicide, like domestic violence, and all the other ills that we see in our face, in the society, but we are not getting the time to address them in the manner that they should be addressed because you are so preoccupied with other agendas. Of course, under my ministry, you have the important reform which we promise must take place in the electoral arena, the statutory provisions which we have targeted for reform and which we have committed will be made public in due course. That is a work in progress. A first set of amendments have already been completed, and I'm completing now a second set. So we are looking at from the time the registration cycle begins until the election results are disclosed. That entire gamut, we are looking at the laws to see how we can tighten all the loopholes, correct whatever deficiencies we may be able to identify, look at where miscreants have been able to exploit what they consider to be ambivalent and ambiguous provisions and bring clarity to those provisions, strengthen wherever there are weak links in that change, in that chain of electoral acts that constitute the electoral machinery or cycle. So that's a work in progress. Then we have constitutional reform, which we have not yet begun to address in a frontal way. You know that all the parties have committed to constitutional reform, and we have decided as a government that we will use the Parliamentary Constitutional Standing Committee for Constitutional Reform as the vehicle to begin that journey. I have been elected chairman of that committee. Parliament is in recess, and hopefully when that committee begins to sit, when Parliament resumes, we will have some alacrity in terms of moving the agenda of constitutional reform going forward. So, I mean, I've said a lot there to answer the first question that you have asked, but I hope that I would have painted quite a picture for you in terms of where our ministry is on the developmental agenda of the country.
Minister, I think I made a mistake to ask an open-ended question because you can speak for the entire program. You have so much information to give to us. And as a matter of fact, you have answered a lot of the questions that we have and that I have to ask you. You have touched on most of them. But Minister, having said that, you spoke of so many things that need to be done in your ministry. And you talk about importing, well, some help from overseas in this process. Do we have sufficient qualified staff in your ministry to fast forward whatever needs to be done? And if not, has any scholarships been given to the attorneys to do postgrad in the areas that you would want to see movement taking place?
I don't think anyone will dispute an assertion that we lack the requisite human resource base in this country for the work that is required now to push our agenda forward. I think everyone will accept. I mean, after years and years of brain drain, where most of our brighter people migrated across our borders, that we are now faced with that reality that we don't. So that is the quick answer to your question. But that doesn't mean that we don't have sufficient number and quality. In my office, I am pleased to say that I have a good bunch of young, energetic, inspired people, young professionals. They're not being paid a lot. In fact, they're being paid a deplorable rate of remuneration. And I hope that we can address that across the public sector in terms of all of our professionals, or else they will continue to hemorrhage outwards. We have doctors who are qualified, we have engineers who are qualified, we have accountants, financial analysts who are qualified, we have lawyers who are qualified, and they are paid comparatively a very low remuneration package. And there is always that constant attraction for them to go to other greener pastures where the payment and the remuneration package is a little more attractive. But also to answer your question, we have a constant flow of scholarship programs. And that brings me to speak about our Gold Scholarship Program, which was, I believe, in my humble view, a remarkable success, where we anticipated that we will we will get about 4,000 scholarships for the first year. I think we surpassed 6,000, which was phenomenal. And what is important, and a point that I want to emphasize, and I hope that our ministry, or the ministries, because there are more than one ministry, or the government, we don't want to do this, and our government has never been inclined to go into this direction. But when you have an opposition who all they do whole day is to incite racism, turn this hostile pot of disaffection and discrimination, and to play the race card, and to try every effort to divide our people and to cause disaffection and excite racial hostilities, then you are forced to think and react in a way to answer those criticisms. So I hope that the statistical data of the persons who have been accepted in that scholarship program will be made public soon. I appeared at an event with His Excellency the President over the weekend, and he made a similar reference that we may have to release statistics from our housing program also to dispel this racist rhetoric that is spinning relentlessly against us all day long, whole day on Facebook and other social platforms. The point, and if you look at the work that we did on that scholarship program, you would have seen me going into Golden Grove, you would have seen me going into Nabacalis, you would have seen me going into Monrepose, into Annandale, into Buxton, I went BV, I went into Pleasance, I went into LBI. The point I am making is that every single village in our country was touched by a minister, not any member of the education ministry. You're not merely a member of the education ministry or the public service ministry, but a minister of the government. On the East Coast alone, I had myself, Joe Hamilton, and Miss Onesh Waldron, and we went to every single village, beginning from industry to Cane Grove, to speak to the people about the scholarship program. So there is no one, and I said it at every forum I got, no one can claim that there was any form of discrimination, but yet they manufacture these things. So you will hear now, I went to a place called Sisters Village. That's on the east bank of the Berbice River, going past south of New Amsterdam. Now that is a mixed village, predominantly Afro-Guyanese. So there was the sharing out of the distribution of the help, the financial assistance for farmers. And it was being done at a school, a primary school at Sisters Village. I went to the school. The persons who were there were predominantly Afro-Guyanese. Hundreds, if not thousands, I don't know how many were there, but it was a packed school and environ. And photographs were taken, and I saw on APN News page belonging to the guy who's he was a sports guy. What's his name? Christopher Jones. Christopher Jones took that photograph from my page, where you see Afro-Guyanese lining up to receive their checks, and say, look how Afro-Guyanese are being fooled in Region 5, where they are receiving no grant. And we were not even dealing with Region 5. That is the kind of misinformation and wicked information that I'm speaking about. That is what they do. So we will have to somehow make these information public, though you don't want to do that. But let me get back. I began to talk about this in reference to a question you asked about scholarship. And if you look at that scholarship program, for example, every minister had an input. I had an input myself. And I advised the coordinators of the program on a compendium of courses of study that should be included in what was being offered as part of the scholarship program. And the Ministry of Education kindly accepted my advice. So there were a number of legal courses relating to the environment, relating to oil and gas sector that were on that scholarship program. Then in terms of forensic medicine, forensic investigation, crime scene, ballistics, handwriting expert, forensic pathologist, I include a series of training courses, degree programs, as well as diploma programs targeting those areas. And they are all on that scholarship program. So the point I am making is, and that is in addition to our university, our regular University of Guyana training program, our regular scholarship program, because we still have a scholarship program outside of GOAL, and that's outside of our secondary and tertiary formal educational structure. So yes, we are training people on a regular basis, but a lot more have to be done. We could never be satisfied with the rate at which we are going. In terms of contracts alone, let me tell you, we have a situation in the country where the contractors are overwhelmed with the amount of work that they have to do. When you look at the contractual load of the contractors operating within the industry, you see they have 6, 7 contracts simultaneously. Now that must have an impact on their ability to deliver. And you have billions and billions of dollars of more contracts to churn out, because we are still churning out contracts for the year 2021. And we are now in the last quarter. The point I am making is that we need help. We need much more resources than we have, because the development rate is moving at that speed.
Yeah, thank you, Minister. I think you hit
the COVID environment.
Yeah, you hit it on the head there. We don't have the capacity to execute all the programs that the government want to get done. But Minister, all of us disagree with what PNC APNU is doing in terms of the propaganda. But I also lay blame on the government, because your PR department is not doing a good job. And I don't think the president should discuss that, but the president should make it a directive to disclose all the information, who gets scholarship, who gets aid from the government, and make that public through e-service. You don't have to publish it in the papers, it's available on the website. So maybe that is one way you need to do it and just don't talk about it. But having said that, Minister, I know you can answer that. I want Dr. Rose to come in.
Yeah, let me just, before Dr. Rose come in, you see, we don't store statistics on ethnic basis. You understand? So when you disclose, you're hoping you'll go by name only, because there is no, the system in Guyana is not structured to store information on an ethnic or racist basis. And you don't want to create that kind of infrastructure in your country, because we don't, as a government, view Guyanese on the basis of their race. We view them as Guyanese, and we fashion policies based upon the exigencies available at the time. But anyway, Dr. Rose.
Dr. Rose, go on.
I'm not hearing Dr. Rose.
Unmute yourself, Doctor. You have to unmute yourself.
Hearing me now?
Yes.
Okay, you touched on a very important point about ministers going out to meet with the people and so forth to bridge the gap, and what APNU is doing to, or whatever persons are doing to disunite the country. But in every election, all political parties have campaigned on one of the major themes. They are going to unify the country. In the last election, the PP campaigned on unifying the country. And someone has told me that something has been established called a One Guyana Commission. Is that being established? Is that in force in order to heal the racial divide and unite the country?
Well, uniting the country has been an objective of every serious politician in Guyana and every serious political party. If you go back to the history of the PPP, you will see that one of its founding principles is to build a united Guyana. Build a united Guyana. That was from 1949 coming down into 1950. We have never departed from that objective. We continue every day to work towards that. But that cannot be, it cannot be the job of one politician or one political party. We will not succeed. You need, first of all, we have a look at our policies. Our policies are targeting, for example, the major budgetary allocation goes into health, education, social services, not into regions or villages. Those are where it goes, those areas where we spend most of our money to target the people of our country. We have poverty reduction programs that are across the regions, targeting poverty, not race or ethnicity. So, and that is how, if you look and if you carry out any type of auditing, if you wish, of our policies, you will see that they have no ethnic slant in them. They are driven to deal with the issues that are affecting the particular grouping of people wherever they are located. So Maikoni is a question of flood, so you spend a lot of money on irrigation. Karasabai, what was the problem there? You spend money on that. The fact that Indo-Guyanese may be living at Maikoni and Amerindian live at Karasabai becomes secondary. And that is how we manage this country. But you have, unfortunately, Guyanese are becoming more and more intelligent and more matured. And that is why you have less and less people following that political motley crew who want to take us in that direction. If you look at them and listen to them and the impact that they are having, you will see that they are having less and less impact every day. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, they could have put 10,000 people on the streets of Georgetown. Let them put 1,000 persons there now. They cannot do it. And it's not that they're not trying. Every day they're trying. During the last election, they tried, and they failed. They wanted to bring out people on the street. They wanted to create mayhem. It didn't last. The people were not bothering with them. Every day they are losing credibility. We have said to them, they say that we are discriminating with the COVID grant, for example. And we are saying that, look, if that is so, please just show us the photograph of the people who have not received the COVID grant and where they are living. Just show us, or show the world. You don't want to tell us who they are? Show the world, and the world see how the PPP is discriminating against this grouping of people who live at Rasville. This is their photograph. This is the mother, this is the daughter, this is the son. They live at this house, and every other house got the COVID grant except this house. And we are putting them on show for you, the world, to see. Not a single person have they been able to put forward when they speak about this discrimination? So every day they are trying with different things. And Dr. Rose and Surgrim, it is their only card left in the pack. It is their only card. It is, and they will go down with that one card because it is their survival. It is their survival. They have no track record to which they can turn. They have no history to which they can turn. They have no glorious record of achievement to which they can turn. What can they turn to? Who is their leader that they can look forward and say, this is our leader who we can glorify? We can turn and we can worship Thierry Jagan, and he stands among men, any grouping of men. Burnham is who they have to look at. Burnham. Burnham is regarded in the third world as a demagogue. That is the truth. So what you are seeing here is their last hurrah. That is why I saw Sherrod Duncan, an MP, making a post of the president. And you know what is the content of his criticism of the president? That the man wore one shirt twice. This is an MP, a member of parliament, who is leading theoretically and representing the interests of about 5,000 people. And the only constructive post he can make on Facebook for the past 72 hours is that the president wear a shirt twice. You understand the level of mental retardation that we are dealing with here? So this is their last hurrah. The people that they have put in the parliament there are unknowns. They don't understand politics. They do not know the people of Guyana. The people of Guyana do not know them. I am going to tell you, I will walk with any one of them, possibly excepting Joseph Harmon, in any community in this country. And people will recognize me quicker than recognize them. And I'm speaking about PNC strongholds. This is at the bottom of the barrel you have here. And this is their last hurrah. Now, I am not saying that constituency, the constituency is what I'm concerned about, because it's an important constituency. I recognize I am not foolish to think that the PPP will win over that constituency at all, more so easily. And that constituency needs leadership. Not this marauding crew that you have here. Leadership of substance, of quality, that the people deserve. I'm not hearing you now, Dr. Rose.
You're on mute again. You gotta unmute yourself.
Yes, okay, sorry about that. Now, you mentioned about people who have not received COVID, and you asked the opposition to show you pictures. But I've known people who have not received COVID. They fill out the pink slips. When they went to collect the money, they were told their name's not there. So it's the bureaucracy that's affected these people. But I don't want to delve into that. What I want to delve into is this, quickly. So the
system is not perfect, Dr. Rose. What I am taking an objection to, of course, I know people who have been left out inadvertently, but there was no systematic effort to discriminate on the basis of politics or race. That's the point, and that is the issue that I want to flee.
Okay, so the One Guyana Commission that your party campaign on, will that be established?
That is an initiative of the president, and it is a work in progress. In fact, we have to discuss whether it will be expressed in a statutory formulation, or whether it will take the form of a non-statutory organization. That's where that's my input at this point in time. But that is one of the mechanisms that we are using to address the question of national unity. Yes.
Will members of the diaspora be involved in that commission?
It is I think I can't remember what are the terms of reference and how it is to be constituted as I sit here, but we have always said that the diaspora has an important role to play, and we continue to hold the diaspora in a partnership relationship with our country. We have thanked the diaspora for the role that they have played and they continue to play in looking over our interests and, of course, giving us support when we need support. But most importantly, we want the diaspora as an investment partner and as a developmental partner as we chart the way forward. People from all around the world are flocking the destination of Guyana as an investment destination. We don't want at all for the diaspora to be left out. We want the diaspora to be very much part of this.
Okay, good. Now, prior to 2015, no local government elections were held. I think the last one was in 1997 or 1994, somewhere there. So the PB was in office, and for almost 20 years, they did not hold local government elections. APNO in campaign on local government election in 2015, and they fulfilled that promise of holding 2 local government elections, one in 2016 and one in 2018. We're now in 2021. Will local government elections be held before the end of this year?
A lot of persons have gotten away with that statement that you just made because the PPP has not adequately answered that allegation that elections were not held for those periods. Yes, that is a statement of fact, that for all those years while the PPP was in government, local government elections were not held. But there is a reason why it was not held. For almost, if it is 20 years, for almost 18 or 19 of those 20 years, the local government elections were postponed by virtue of agreements between the PNC and the PPP. And every year, an amendment had to have been passed in the parliament to postpone those elections. And the record of the parliament will confirm each year that that amendment to postpone the elections was consensually passed. So when the PNC takes the position that elections were not held during the PVP time, local government elections, they are being completely dishonest and disingenuous. It's the same thing that they did to partner with the PVP for the use of the voters' ID card for the 97 elections, and when they lost the elections, they went and challenged it. The same thing they sat with the PNC and decided they will rotate the mayorship of Georgetown, and when they got it, they kept it. That is the style of the PPP, the PNC. That is what they do. Look at how many acts of dishonesty we saw from them in relation to the 2020 elections. I mean, we don't have to relive that all over again, but it remains a stark reminder. The point I am making is that the PNC was equally liable for the postponement of those elections for about 18 of those 20 years. We are committed to elections when they are constitutionally due, and it is a matter for GCOM. We had raised one objection, that is that we would not go to an election once you have the machinery being manned by miscreants of the caliber of Lowenfield, Myers, and Mungo. And that is not a position that we will ever resign from. But those persons are no longer there. So GCOM now, you know, the condition that we had, or the caveat that we had, the apprehensions that we expressed are no longer there. And
Gentlemen,
GCOM responsibility it is to program elections.
Thank you,
Okay.
Minister. We'll take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion. We'll be back shortly.
Travelspan Curry Duck Curry 2021 in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic was a massive success. Starting from Thursday into every night after, entertainers were on hand. Then came the Dominican-born Bollywood dancers that just awed the crowd. Many of our guests took day tours and visited the local market areas. Curry goat curry and bake and saltfish were among the tasty delights. Then came the big moment of the Curry Duck Curry competition. All guests were able to enjoy duck, and halal duck was also available for all Muslims. History was in the making with West Indian and Indian culture with Travelspan Curry Duck Curry. Let Travelspan arrange your flights, vacations, honeymoons, or cruises, and let allfromonesupplier.com deliver your duck, goat, and chicken, or all your West Indian items. On behalf of Travelspan, All From One Supplier, and sponsors, we wish to thank you for making this trip a memorable one. Get your meals delivered directly to your home. Order your curry duck curry, goat, or chicken, plus your dalpuri roti and basapshat from allfromonesupplier.com. We ship your meals directly to your home, so you can enjoy it upon arrival or refrigerate it and take it out when you're ready to eat. No more waiting in lines and no more losing time. Now you can treat yourself with a tasty curry and roti. You can also order solos, ices, pear jacks, coconut water, and much more from allfromonesupplier.com. It is free shipping to all US states on all your curry duck curry, goat, and chicken, plus sodas and all West Indian items. So treat yourself or send a gift box of your favorite food, tasty pastries, sweets, and coconut water, or any West Indian item, products such as fish, meat, curry powders, pepper sauces, and much more from allfromonesupplier.com. Call today at 718-551-3292 or visit allfromonesupplier.com. Remember, it's free shipping throughout the US. Folks, the Nest Restaurant is the place to dine for Guyanese and Caribbean dishes. It is the best restaurant in Queens. The staff is courteous, and Dave, the owner, is always there to welcome you. So for a memorable dining experience, visit the Nest Restaurant located at 12717 101 Avenue, South Richmond Hill. Go and make a reservation today or takeout. Call 718-847-4035. For all your plumbing, heating, and cooling needs, call Zim Mechanical Inc. at 347-456-8885. Zim Mechanical Inc. installs boilers, hot water heaters, and cooling systems. Located at 9732 Waltham Street, Jamaica, Queens, Zim Mechanical Inc. also repairs and troubleshoots your gas, heating, and cooling systems. For quotes on prices and repairs, call 347-456-8885.
Welcome back to our program as we have with us the Honorable Minister of Legal Affairs and Attorney General Anil Nandlall. Minister, I think we need to clear the air on this topic because people seem to have different views on it. You have mentioned, and the Vice President have mentioned, that any future oil contract will have a new production sharing agreement. Recent report in newspapers saying that there might have been more PSAs than we thought there is. You're the Attorney General, you have the record. How many production sharing agreement do we have signed by the government that is in place right now or will be implemented in the future? Has already been signed?
I only know of the one that is the current one that was signed by AP and UAFC.
So in your view as the Attorney General, there is no other production sharing agreement that is concretized already?
No, we haven't signed one since we came in, as far as I know.
But according to OGGN, they're saying that President Ramotara signed some. Is that true or not so?
No, I can't recall as I'm here. We had some. No, man, it's not the one that we didn't have production sharing agreement at that point in time.
Yeah,
there were not production. The production sharing agreement only came about when the oil was being produced, or for the production of the oil. That came under AP and UAFC.
Okay, so I can clear the air, Minister, to tell our viewers that as we speak here, the only production share agreement we have is with the Exxon one that Minister Trotman signed.
As far as I know, yes.
Okay. Now, having said that, Minister, I read the papers every day here in New York. And every time, recently, as you have seen in the press, 3 guys were charged for breaking into their former employer's bond and stole things like mackerel and different things. And these guys go to jail. Minister, a government minister signed away Guyana's wealth, and the minister is still walking free in the streets of Guyana. Is that fair to our country?
We have said that it is, and the word that I've always used to describe the agreement, is one of the most lopsided agreements ever signed. And I have never retracted from that position, and I don't intend to. Recently, I spoke about it in the National Assembly, and I made reference to the fact that not only did they sign the agreement, but that they kept it secret for 2 years. And no one knew. The most important agreement ever signed in the history of independent Guyana was signed in secrecy by a government, and the population was not informed. The opposition was not informed. No one was consulted. I don't think the president knew. This agreement was signed and produced in cabinet when the investigation was done. That was the kind. It's inexplicable that an agreement of that magnitude, of that type of ramification, will be treated in the manner in which it was treated. And then there was this signing bonus that came with it, that the Minister of Finance denied ever knowing about, when a letter is produced showing that he directed the central bank to open an account to deposit the very signing bonus. So there are a lot of mystery and mystique that surround this agreement. But I mean, what the other side, the agreement is legal, and the company that has signed the agreement is not going to bend over backwards. This is a company that is there for profits. It has never shown itself that it is intended, that it is interested in anything else. And it will insist on its contractual rights. And that's why we have said that going forward, we will have to deal with this issue. Look, to get the other license, the Payara license, for example, there were actual negotiations that were very aggressive and very scrupulous and very detailed that one had to undergo. The other day, we passed an amendment for the pipeline. That didn't come out just like that. That came as a result of intense interaction with the company. So you are living in a world where you want to respect private investments. You want to make your country attractive to investors. You have to take a particular posture that respects private capital, that respects private property, that respects investments. Not like what the other government did and confiscated the Berbice Bridge. I have to deal with that in the court. They basically seized the Berbice Bridge, took the people private capital over. When a government behaves like that, you know what the ramifications are for investments. You live in America. You live in a country where sanctity of contract is accorded the highest of respect and regard. So we can't eat our cake and have it. We made a bad deal and we have to move on and ensure that that bad deal doesn't follow us. And we are able to learn from that mistake.
Minister, I don't know if you read Dr. Taran Kemraj. He wrote us an article some time ago in Kaichur News, I believe, or is it Starbrook? When he said, leave the contract as is, and you've talked about the sanctity of contract and so on. But if we can go to Exxon and say, listen, let us cut that 75% cap on cost, bring it to 60%. That immediately going to release billions of dollars. You know how much money Guyana need to leapfrog into the future. We are getting some money from them, but if we can cap costs to 60%, 50%, Guyana will get hundreds of billions of dollars up front, and Exxon will recover their costs. It will take a little longer, but they'll recover their costs. Has that been considered, or anything near to that?
Well, the vice president is normally the one who speaks on these matters. And you would have heard him explain that we don't even have the capacity to audit the expenses. We are building that type of capacity. In other words, there was no work done whatsoever to prepare the infrastructure for this production agreement. Not only was it signed in secrecy, but absolutely nothing was done in order to prepare Guyana, even to protect whatever little interest it has under this lopsided agreement. So we are still in the process of building that kind of capacity.
Okay, Minister, before Dr. Rose come on, I just want to switch gear to something else. There seems to be a big problem with Berbice. As you know, we get a lot of report from Berbice there. When there's a problem with animals between neighbors or families or so on, ownership of animals, what happened is that they will take the animal to the station, and the police will tie the animal in the station compound. The file is then sent to the DPP, and the DPP will recommend whatever the recommendation is. Minister, at number 51 police station, Mr. Harbajan is reporting to me that there's some sheep there for since June. The file has gone to the PPP, but the animals, a lot of them die in the compound. Are we so callous towards the dumb animals that we allow them to suffer while these things go on? What can be put in place? I know, and again, in your opening statement, you have all these things in your plate, Minister, and I empathize with you because there's so many things to be done. But is there anything that can be done to help, to alleviate this problem with animals going into police compound?
Obviously, things can be done, and that is not how it should be. But I am thinking, Harbajan tells you, and you live in Richmond Hill, rather than Harbajan try to get that information onto me. You understand what I'm saying? Or Harbhajan tries to get it on to the regional chairman. Or Harbhajan tries to tell Magistrate Krishnanath Prasad, or tells we have two or three MPs in Berbice. Why Harbhajan sends that information to you? He can tell Adrian Anamaya to make contact with me. I mean, you have many people in the government structure in Berbice to whom that information could have been communicated, and that issue would have been addressed. But the thing is that you have laws. If animals are found straying, then you have the law that says that the stray catcher can pick up the animal and take it to the pond, etc. You have laws governing all those things. And I don't know why a file would be at the DPP office since June, and can't get back. You know, that doesn't sound real to me. But that should not happen.
Okay. Charles, let me just butt in here. Mr. Nandlall, I very seldom come to the defense of anyone. But let me come to the defense of Mr. Harbhajan, who I happen to know. I'm from the quarantine. You saying you should get this to the regional people and so forth. I will say this to you on a whole scale basis, because I was up the quarantine for weeks. And I will tell you this, with the exception of one or two people, the RCD is not functioning. The NDCs, they're not functioning. Listen to this carefully. There are 18 NDCs up the quarantine. There's one RDC, and there are 3 municipalities, Nyamsam, Rosal, Corriverton. And the quarantine, the people there have the world of problems, health, education, you name it, roads, everything. And nothing is happening to help those people in quarantine. I was there myself. I've seen it. So when the disabled complain to them, maybe did. But those people in the RDCs, I will say this, let the people in quarantine tell you, go on the ground. They don't take phone calls, they don't return phone calls. The health department, I went to hospitals, there's nothing there. So if you're telling me this, I've been there, I've been to hospitals. Beds don't have mattresses, beds don't have sheets, beds don't have pillowcases. Medication is very scarce. I've been there to the hospitals of quarantine. So
well, I am glad that you are exposing what you are exposing, and I am sure the Minister of Health is watching, Dr. Vishwa Mahadev is watching, and the health people in Berbice, Ramaya is watching, the regional chairman is watching. What I do know, though, that the president himself has been to Berbice more than 4 times or 5 times, if I can reckon correctly. I have been to Berbice several times, quarantined, held public meetings. The Minister of Agriculture, I mean, you must see how many times you have been to that lower quarantine in particular, in that 5274 locality, and in the lower Crabwood Creek area. And all those engagements have been with farmers, persons in the communities. They've all been public meetings. I've attended a few. So while I can't, as I sit here, contradict you in terms of the performance of the NDC and RDC, you claim to have personal knowledge of their inadequacies. I will endeavor to inform myself. But what I can tell you is that the president and ministers of our government, right across the spectrum, have been on the ground in quarantine, as we have been right across this country, interacting with the people. And I don't think anyone can dispute that. So it's not that the people have been without access to those in government. Yes,
let me just say this. I know ministers, the president, everybody have been to the quarantine. But when you have people, which they're evidence of this, and you can just go there, looking out for their interest, and looking out for their family's interest, and their friends' interest of the quarantine, it's going to reverberate against the party in elections. But I'm not going to get involved in that now. Let me switch up to another question, Mr. Attorney General, you know that development don't start at the top. It starts at the bottom and rises up to the top. Now, you know as well as I do, judges, magistrates, they have to write notes when cases are being tried. Why can Guyana have stenographers?
All right, that's a very interesting question. In my last stint as Attorney General, I had commenced a program whereby we equipped a number of courts in the High Court and the Court of Appeal with automated recording system. Voice records and produce a written transcript. And you get that within a few hours for the payment of a small fee. That system is in the High Court and it is working in Berbice, in Essequibo, in Court of Appeal, and in the High Court of Demerara. We need to take that program now and put it in the Magistrates Court across the country. We are getting there. Last week, I held a meeting with the DPP, the Commissioner of Police, the Head of Police Administration, and some other important functionaries, where I have undertaken to donate out of an IDB program that my ministry is currently administering, the requisite hardware for statements to be given by the prosecution to the defense counsel in criminal trials, those statements to be no longer handwritten, but typewritten. So, and that's a big initiative. That I got to put computers, typists, printers in all the police stations across the country, so that the statements are recorded in print and not in police handwriting, where you have difficulties in reading. If you look at the courts that are being constructed now, they have living quarters for the magistrates. They are all air conditioned. They are all two-storied, or there is an elevator for a person who can go up. And I'm speaking about magistrates court. And I'm speaking about magistrates court that are located in Lethem, in Bartica, and elsewhere. In Vigilance, we are doing one soon. So there is a systematic overhaul of the entire system that is currently taking place. But it will take time. As I said, Vigilance is being done, I believe, this year by this. Mabaruma is being done now as I speak. And Vigilance, I might be starting this year or definitely next year. We just completed Bartica. I had the privilege of traveling with the Chancellor and the Chief Justice to declare open Bartica. Bartica is a brand new court, fully air conditioned, with quarters for the magistrate, elevator, and everything. So we are getting there. Once we have that kind of infrastructure to install the system that you are, a stenographer, by the way, is now outdated. That is a concept of the past. We have more modern technology where the voice is recorded and the transcript automatically produced. But you got to get the voice acclimatized with the enunciation and pronunciation, the accent, etc. You have some difficulties in adjusting that to a Guyanese context. So that is something on our agenda, and we are working on that as one of the various platforms that we are pursuing to modernize the court system. We are going to get eventually, very shortly, hopefully within this 5-year period, a brand new modern judicial center that will accommodate the Court of Appeal and the High Court in one edifice. New high-rise building, car park, mediation facility, arbitration center, library, nice quarters for judges, everything modern. Several concepts are being looked at. So, trust me, Dr. Rose, Guyana is being rebuilt as we speak. We have many little things, like, for example, the sheep at 51 Village, but those are the issues that we got to deal with. We can't for one moment make the mistake, which I believe to some extent we have made, and politicians were able to exploit it, that we were dreaming big and speaking about a Marriott when the people in Blackbush couldn't relate to that vision. So we have to do it this time simultaneously. So right now we are putting up a pepper sauce factory in Blackbush. You would have seen the minister declare that project open. So the modernization is taking place simultaneously in the peripheral centers as well as in the urban centers of the country. And we have to continue that kind of dichotomy on a regular basis.
You have to unmute yourself. You have to unmute yourself.
We're still not hearing you.
Okay. The RDC in Region 6, a glowing picture of it, I think it has about 9 vehicles. And do you know the police force in the quarantine? From sister station at East Bank, Berbice, New Amsterdam, Reliance, Albion, Wim, Blackbush, Polo, 51, Skeldon don't have no vehicles, just motorcycles. Are you aware of that?
No, I'm not aware of that, and I don't think that is correct. I find that impossible to believe.
Check with the commander in New Amsterdam, he'll tell you that. Anyway, my next question is this. I gleaned over a number of civil cases in the country during my time there. And most of the civil cases, I stand corrected if I'm wrong, because I can only check so many, are land cases, which have taken years for a conclusion to be made. Are there land court just judges?
Now, not all land cases are to be dealt with by the land court. It's maybe a contradiction in terms for the layman, because you can have a dispute in relation to land, which is being tried by the ordinary civil jurisdiction of the High Court, and an appeal from that goes to the Court of Appeal. When one speaks of the land court in Guyana's legal system, we speak about a court that hears an application for prescriptive title or an application for registration of title. That is what a land court deals with. So I just want to make that clarification for you, for the purpose of your viewers. Right now there is no Judicial Service Commission, and the Judicial Service Commission is that constitutional body that must appoint judges. The last resident Berbice Land Court judge retired in 2019. So we didn't have, and the Judicial Service Commission expired around that same time. So we have not had a Judicial Service Commission for some time now. And as I indicated to the press, I know that the President is working on appointing a Judicial Service Commission shortly. Once that Service Commission is appointed, one of the first appointments that hopefully, they can be directed by the executive, but I hope that they will see the import and the urgency in making appointments to the land court of Berbice. But you have judges from Georgetown, land court judges, who have been traveling to Berbice to help with the situation. But I will agree with you that there has accumulated a backlog of some magnitude at the Berbice land court, and it must be addressed with every convenience, please.
Okay, these are not questions. I just need your help in this. I asked this to Minister Rosenben last week,
The
but I need
practice
your
law?
help. Pardon me?
You're a lawyer?
I'm not going to disclose anything to you. I would like to know this though. In Guyana, in this day and age, after 56 years of independence, most government departments are closed at noon. Why can't there be a staggering of workers to take their lunch break so that departments are kept open? I'm not asking you to address this. I'm asking you as a senior member of the cabinet.
Well, I see that you're frozen.
Yeah, go on, Minister. Go on, answer.
I don't know that government departments are closed for lunch. I know that there is lunch, and I know that people, persons or employees, they take their lunch at different period. I don't know that offices are closed for lunch. The deeds and commercial registry come under my ministry, but they are statutory authorities. We move them away from the public service. But these are public service rules, and one can call them relics if you wish. But they are with the public service, and I guess if they insist upon these rules, I suppose that is how it is going to be. But I don't think in modern times that should be the position. I believe that sufficient arrangements should be made for there to, during office hours, for persons to alternate, so that during what is described as lunchtime, persons can be there manning the counter.
Okay, my other question, I need help in this one. If I start to work with government from Wednesday coming, the 1st of September, I will not get my first paycheck until January. Why does it take so long? How am I going to survive 3 months or 4 months working without a pay? And if I have to travel, what happens?
If you start to work when, you said?
Okay, it takes more than 3 months for any person working in the government to get a first paycheck.
I don't think there is some delay, but I don't think it's that long. And I can't answer that question, my friend. I have had the frustration of having lawyers come and they're working and they can't get paid because I don't know why. You get an explanation from your personnel department, from your permanent secretary that hardly makes sense. That it is somebody at finance holding back something about the payroll at public service. An explanation that would give you a stroke.
Well, as a senior member of the cabinet, can you raise these issues? These are issues can be solved very, very easily. Why they're being prolonged for decades and decades and decades? That's my point.
I have been raising them, and I'm glad that you have raised them. You have many listeners here, including members of the government, and I hope that they are listening, because I have vented my frustration several times. The ministers themselves are frustrated.
Charles, over to you.
Minister, I want to get to something else, and you touched on it a little. The social fabric of our society is deteriorating at a really, really fast rate. Recently, over the weekend, we saw drunken men beat a pandit to death in Berbice. There are reports of bandits on the East Coast seawall robbing people and so on. Why is there not an influx of law enforcement to snip this menace from our society? I mean, if we have to put law enforcement every mile, Minister, we should do it to nip this in the bud. It seems, look at the choke and rob in Georgetown. Minister, before you were born, they were choke and rob there. You are now the Attorney General, and there's still choke and rob there. When will this nonsense stop? I see even the foreigners, they're robbing in broad daylight. The vendors who want to speak out cannot, because they will come and attack the vendor again. What can be put in place to stop this menace, Minister?
The crime situation in the country is indeed a challenge. And let me not try to placate. That is one of the serious challenges facing the government. If I am to tell you here that the crime chief is reporting reduced criminal activities, in particular of a violent type, it will not comfort you nor your listeners, because what you are reading in the newspapers and what you are hearing from members of the public is that crime continues to wreak havoc in the country. And that is the perception. And sometimes that perception becomes reality. So it is a problem that the government is grappling with. You had Globespan Ben, the distinguished Minister of Home Affairs, last week. I hope that he would have edified you on steps that the government is taking to challenge the situation, to deal with the situation. But it's not a one plaster for a sore kind of remedy. You have to get deeper into it, and it continues to be a problem. Look at that Pandit guy, the Haribol guy, I see the press described him as, and him being beaten. That's an indictment on society. That is an expression of serious social problems in that community, where the guy went out with a wood apparently to, I suppose, assault those who are drinking, and they in turn reacted and murdered him. That is how human beings interact. That is the most basal form of behavior. So you have that's a serious situation that you have to deal with, and it has to be a very, very comprehensive approach. If you hear me speak recently on mental health in Guyana, we have a serious mental health problem that we are not addressing. Many of the persons who are being sentenced by the court have mental health problems. Those men who drank to that extent that they couldn't differentiate what is wrong from what is right, and proceeded to beat that man to death, can't tell me that those are not people who have mental health problems. Those are people who have mental health problems. But they are going to be charged and they're going to go to court, and that will not be detected. And that mental health, like every other sickness, if it is not treated, will deteriorate. And it gets worse. So we have to have a very comprehensive approach to crime and criminality in the country.
Yeah, Minister, I mean, as I mentioned to Minister Ben last week too, Rose, you're getting a feedback from your end. Can you go on mute, please? Thanks. That we cannot just make broad statements and without putting a time frame to it being done. So when you're saying there's a plan to get done, the plan can take years. And I'm saying my recommendation, Minister, is that at least we put some time frame in place. The choke and rob in Georgetown, when will that stop? The robs on the seawall, when will it stop? People cannot even go peaceful in the seawall and enjoy the beautiful Atlantic breeze. They're scared of being robbed. When will this stop, Minister?
Well, look, we have to make some brave decisions, in my respectful view. We have had and then I'm going to say something that will be controversial. That is why I got to, I want to curtail what I want to say. But I agree with you that the situation can't continue. We have to make decisions like, are we going to arm our population? Do we have the right approach to the issuance of gun license? Is this restrictive approach that we have employed over the years a good one? Has it worked? or should we be more liberal? So when a man comes to you, he knows that there's a likelihood that you have a gun. I don't know whether that will increase the crime, that will increase the violence, it will decrease the robbery, I don't know. But these are questions that we have to answer and we have to ask ourselves. We are working on a new crime strategy that will create a quick reaction group in every region, in every division. And you would have heard the opposition say that we are creating some parallel military force. So every time you try to move in a particular direction, in particular against crime fighting, APNU, AFC always attacks you. Whenever crime is on they seem to always have this harmonious relationship with criminals. And I can cite the Blackie example, and every time you have police shooting a bandit, they always take the side of the bandit and they cry extrajudicial killing. They seem to be aligned with the bandits. So we try every time you have the black clothes, we used to call it the reaction group. As soon as one of those groups become effective and they start to hit the criminal hard, APNU comes out and they march and they create mayhem in the streets. And all the victims of the police become altar boys. And these were boys who were going to church, and the police wrongfully killed them. You have that whole narrative that will start up. It has started up again when the government has announced that we will start this this new addition to our crime fighting apparatus, which is basically a quick reaction group to be assembled exclusively in each division. So you can't have the complaint that Dr. Rose just tell me about, that from Sisters Village to number 72 village, there is no motor vehicle other than a cycle. You would have a quick reaction group attached to the various commands, exclusively with I don't know how many vehicles, depending on how many resources we have, but staffed, fully staffed and ready to hit a crime scene. And they will also have an extended presence in areas like the seawalls. We have started many initiatives, you know. We now have patrols around Georgetown in collaboration with the business community that maybe the police have not made public yet. But it's a partnership between the police and the private sector to have the police strategic presence at identified locations where there are high incidents of robbery and criminal violence.
And Minister, Dr. Rose, can you mute your phone, please, your thing, because it's getting a feedback. Thanks. Minister, that's exactly what we're talking about, is that, you know, I don't know if you listened last week's program with Minister Ben. I was shocked when Minister Ben reported to us that to pass in the police force, the entrance exam to be a policeman, all you have to get is 40%. Which profession? You're an attorney at law, I'm an accountant. Which profession you pass by 40% and you qualified in that profession? Yet, Minister, the PBP was there for 23 years, and now you're back on again, and the pass rate to be a recruit in the police force is 40%. What is going on with our system?
I don't think you should be worried about the 40%. It is the qualifications to sit the exam. You have to have no qualification to sit the exam. That, I believe, should be the worrying factor. And then in addition to that, apparently you're telling me that 40% will make you pass. So you have a sound primary education and you're qualified to sit the exam. That must change. But it's not only, that is why we have put back into the system the cadet program. The cadet program admits persons who have 5 or more CXC or advanced level or a diploma or a degree and starts them at a particular level on an accelerated training program and graduate them as officers. We have restarted that program in the force, and that's to build leadership, mid leadership that will take over and gradually go up at the top. But Charles, the reality of the situation also has to do with remuneration. If I tell you what this policeman's salary is, then you understand why that quality of persons are attracted. You talk about you being an accountant, etc. You will not even think of working under the conditions that the policeman is expected to work. So we got to be fair and we have to be humane and dispassionate in our analysis. You can't want the CXC guy and you want a 60% mark and you want the man to be professional and you paid him 80,000 $900 less than 400 US take home. Can't work like that. It don't happen that way. That's the reality of the world.
And that's why, Minister, before Dr. Rose come on, that's why we need to talk to Exxon, at least cut the cap of 75%, bring it down to 50, 60%. You'll have tremendous amount of resource coming into Guyana, and we can do some of those things you talk about.
We are going to get there, Surgrim. We are going to get there.
Yeah, but by the time the grass is growing, the horse is starving, Minister. We can't continue doing that. Dr. Rose?
Minister Nandlall, there are several estimates that show that there are more than 8,000 illegal guns in the country. As a matter of fact, one estimate places at 15,000. That might be high. Now, can you pass a law or craft a law and let it be passed in Parliament that anyone found with an illegal gun in the country, the minimum sentence should be 10 years. Don't give judges or magistrates any lateral movement. The minimum should be 10 years. Can such a law be passed to have a deterrent for having illegal guns in the country? Because I was made to understand that for every one illegal gun the police sees, 10 more will appear. So can you craft a law to say that, look, anyone found with an illegal gun in the country, the minimum sentence should be 10 years. Judges must abide by that. They can't say we'll give 5. No, minimum is 10 years. Can you do that?
My friend, to answer your question, yes, we can do that. In fact, we have a law in place now that is not much more different from that which you are advocating for. We have a law that says that if you are found in the possession of firearm or ammunition, you are not to get bail unless special reasons are disclosed to the magistrate, and the magistrate must record those special reasons in writing, and those special reasons must relate not to you, the person, but to the facts and circumstances of the offense. Do you know how difficult it is for a magistrate to get special reasons in those contextual circumstances? But the magistrate tosses the law outside and they grant bail. And I have had the cause to viciously criticize them at a public forum at which I spoke last week in the presence of the Chancellor and the Chief Justice. And that is why we are working on a bail act that will seek to circumscribe that discretion that magistrates and judges have in relation to the grant of bail. In terms of penalty for gun and gun-related offenses, the maximum is life imprisonment. The minimum is about 5 years. So we're not far from that formula you are advocating. We have strengthened our firearm possession laws several times. If you possess a firearm with a terroristic intention, you are going to be hanged. The death penalty is prescribed in our law. So the question is not about that. Then on the one hand, you are advocating to put more people in the jail. And on the other hand, the jail is complaining that they can't handle the load in there. And that too many people are imprisoned. So this question about crime and criminality and incarceration and victims of crime and mental health, it's all related, and it's a very, very complex question. And it is a question that we are addressing right now on the IDB funded program. And that's why I'm speaking about mental health, a bail act, sentencing guidelines will come out of it. It's out of the same act that we are speaking, and the same project that the Law Reform Commission has come from. It's the same act that will speak to what is called restorative justice. You see, what the criminologists and the sociologists have found in their examination over the years, and I speak about the last century, is that the hard approach to crime and to rehabilitation has not worked. So the death penalty, the physical flogging, the cat o' nine tails, the 10 years with hard labor, that system of punishment has not really worked. Crime has become even more pronounced 100 years after. So they are trying the less harsher penalties, if you want to call it that. The more what they will describe as the more sophisticated, the more socially scientific ones. So you have concepts like mental health, therapeutic assistance, counseling on a wide scale, less incarceration, less exposure to that type of environment, more exposure to a social, a less socially odious environment. You have the question of restorative justice, where you go to understand why did the man rape? Why did the boy assault? What was the root cause? You go back into his home, and then you realize that, you know what, he was an abused child. And you try to rectify that home so that it doesn't produce more miscreants of this type and depravities and persons of such proclivities. So this whole, and we are training people to go into this restorative justice. There's a restorative justice bill that I'll soon lay in the Parliament. It's in the cabinet currently, but it carries with it an infrastructure. So all these things we are working on in Guyana. A lot of work is being done, but I mean, it takes time, and we have to build the society. But everybody wants everything quickly.
Okay, Minister. From my knowledge and for the knowledge of my listeners, the consent age in Guyana is 16 years. 2 questions. If someone is raped, a 14-year-old is raped by another 14-year-old. If 14-year-old raped, the 14-year-old could be charged? That's 1. 2, could parents give consent to marry their son or daughter who is under 16 years old?
Let me answer the latter question first. Yes, parents can give consent, but I believe that that consent has to be given to a judge of the High Court who will authorize the marriage to take place. In terms of the other question that you asked, yes, a 14-year-old boy can rape a 14-year-old girl. The girl is incapable of granting consent, even though she may have said yes to the boy. And the boy, however, has not reached that age where he is incapable of performing the act of rape. You have to go lower for him. I believe there's a term that is called doli incapax. He must be doli incapax before he's exempt from being charged. And that is lower, not 14. I don't know the exact number right now. I'm not a criminal lawyer, but I remember off the top of my head.
Minister, Dr. Rose, we are coming to program time. As a matter of fact, we have gone over program time, so we want to thank you, Minister. You want to say, Dr. Rose, any other question for Minister? You can unmute yourself first. Okay, Minister, you want to say anything in closing?
I was going on to say, Dr. Rose, I think a lot of free legal advice. I got to look at whether you got a clinic or something. You're doing legal aid work or you got an office. You got some backdoor operation here, Dr. Rose? We're giving legal advice. Anyway, so I'm not hearing what he's saying, but touting is an offense, Dr. Rose. It's a serious criminal offense. Anyway, Charles, I want to thank you and thank Dr. Rose for inviting me to be part of your program this evening. I think that we have covered a wide variety of issues. I hope that I have addressed the issues that you have posed to me, and I hope that your audience and your viewers are in a better position to appreciate the government's position on the issues that you have raised with me. I hope that I would have answered the questions to the satisfaction of you, Dr. Rose, and your viewers.
Thank you, Minister and Attorney General. I greatly appreciate your presence, and you accept our invitation at a very short notice, and that was something that I always welcome from you. I will ask you to stick around for a minute or two after the program.
And Minister, as usual, you are very clear in your answers. Before the program started, my wife said, do not ask the Attorney General hard question. I said there was no question hard for the Attorney General. He is well versed in every area of law. But Minister, we want to thank you. So there's so many other questions that we need to ask you, but time has run on us, and we hope sometime in the near future that you'll have the time to come back on our platform so we can continue this discussion. Again, Minister, thank you so much.
It has been a pleasure.
And to our viewers out there, we want to thank you so much for being with us. Until the next time, God bless our country. God bless the great country of Guyana. Thank you so much.